Good evening. My name is Ashram Parsi. I'm the Executive Director of the International Railroad for Queer Refugees based in Toronto, Canada, where I live. Also, I'm the Director of the Marjan Foundation, which supports refugees to bring them to Canada. Today I was listening to a lot of speakers, and I'm going to tell you my stories, which is including all the previous 5 speakers. I'm going to talk about abuse. My story is about crime. My life story is about immigration. My life story is about being an agile leader. And my story also about investment. I'm not a soldier, but I feel like one because I was in a lot of wars in my life. My first war was when I was born, a few days before I was born. I was born in Iran, Shiraz, which is famous for its red wine, but not anymore after the revolution. I was born in a very ordinary family. Just 2 days after I was born, Iraq attacked Iran. The first 8 years of my life was during the war. And I was at a school. I didn't know what's happening. I didn't have any idea about the international issues, politics, conflict, and etc. But I remember a lot of things that still is very much alive within me. My school basically was in a shelter because every second you could hear a missile and a bombing. It was a sound and a shake and a huge smoke following by people screaming. I had it in my brain over and over. Sound, a shake, smoke, and a scream. And again, sound, shake, smoke, and a scream. It was very, very difficult. And whenever we had these people are, losing their beloved family members, everyone, and it's very sad to see. And still, when I go back to those days, it's very heartbreaking. Islamic regime was formed 3 days before I was born. Shahs of Iran left, and then we had a new government. They changed everything. My second war was when I was a young teenager. The other war that I've been, it was internal conflict. No one knows about it. There were no sound, shake, smoke, and scream anything. People couldn't hear it, couldn't feel it, but I did. I didn't know. I had a special feeling within myself that I didn't know who I am. I didn't know why I'm attracted to my same sex. I didn't understand why other people are attracted in their opposite sex. It was a very internal conflict. And on one hand, I could read some of the books that it was about, basically religious things based on Islam and Sharia law. Homosexuality is punishable by death. And it was very horrifying to read those texts that the only disagreement between clergies was the method of killing. So all of them were in agreement that homosexuals should be killed. And the difference was some believed that they have to be hanged, some believed that they have to be stoned to death, some believed that they have to be thrown from a big mountain or cliff, and some people believe that they have to be cut in half by a big sword. Imagine that you are a young teenager and you read these things and you say that this is my destiny. But I didn't want to give up. I wanted to win. I wanted to make a change. And I said, I'm not going to be quiet anymore. I'm not going to let them happen. I don't want them to continue what they're doing in the last many, many decades. I always blamed the previous generation that why they didn't do too much or enough, that I have to suffer right now. And the next question that it came to my mind was what I have to do in order to not getting the same blame from the next generation. I had to make the sound, shake people, and cry out that we do exist. Dr. Luther King had a dream. dream of equality. I too had a dream of equality, and I wanted to do it, but I had one big problem. I didn't know how. I was a young teenager in Iran with no access to anything, no books, no counselors, no caseworker, nothing, and I had to find out everything about the plight that I am in and also my friends. I mentioned that my name is Ashram Parsi, and I'm the spokesperson of the Iranian LGBT community. But Ashram is not the name that my parents chose for me. Ashram was one of my friends that I met in Iran, in Shiraz. He was a really great guy. He was one of my first gay friends in my hometown after a long time of being under the impression that I'm the only person on this planet by this feeling. We had a lot of plans to do a lot of things in the future in order to bring a change into our society. One day I wanted to reach him and I wasn't able, and I went to his home and I've seen what I shouldn't. Unfortunately, Ashram committed suicide when his parents find him in bed with another guy. When I saw those bloody sheets, I became Ashram. I became him. When I saw Amir and his friends at Shiraz court, when they were arrested by the regime just for attending a birthday party, I became Ashram. When I find out Roshanak, my trans friend, committed suicide by eating arsenic because their family couldn't accept her for who she was, I became Ashram. And when I find out Shahram, who was stabbed to death in one of my city's park for being feminine, I became Ashram. I never decided to become a gay activist. That was my destiny. Sometimes we are in a life path that we have to do what it takes. No matter if we have education about it, no matter if we know how to do it, but we need to do something about it. And I'm sure a lot of you find yourself at some point in your life that you have to do something. And that was my beginning of the third war. I started my activism, and the Iranian regime found out about me, and they're actively trying to arrest me, and I had to escape. My third war started at 12:45 p.m. on March 5th, 2005, when I crossed Iran-Turkey's border. Iranian flag was here, Turkish flag was here, and I knew that I'm stepping into exile. When my train passed the border, I knew that I cannot go back. I knew that if I go back, I will be arrested, tortured, and killed. Enemy can make you stronger. My enemies made me stronger. And living in Turkey was very difficult. I was living in a very, small shelter in the city of Kayseri in eastern Turkey. I didn't have money, I didn't have saving, I didn't have my family support, I didn't have anything, and I had to survive. But I knew that everything that we do and everything that I do is an investment for a brighter future, for a better days that it come. And after 13 months, I was granted refugee status by the UNHCR, and I was sent to Canada. On May 6, 2006, which always referred to my second birthday, I received a very warm welcoming from Canadian and international community. And living in Canada gave me power to travel all around the world, talking about the plight of Iranians, LGBTs, and also about abolishing execution, changing the law, and making those people who were in power to listen to us. I was alone, and I needed a lot of allies. I needed a lot of people to work with me in order to bring the change. I worked with a lot of noble activists, and in my opinion, there was only one movement or a group of activists that they could support LGBT rights, and they were women rights activists. Because women rights activists and LGBT rights activists, they meet at a very special intersection, fighting with patriarchy system. Women are being suffered for the patriarchy system based on their sex. And LGBTs are a victim of the patriarchy system based on their sexual orientation and gender identity. And we tried to work with each other a lot. It was a long, long path ahead of us. But we knew, and I personally knew, that change will happen. I didn't know when, and I believed that it was, it will happening. Maybe not in my lifetime, but something special happened. September 16, 2022. Is there anyone here that they don't know, they never heard Mahsa Amini? Raise your hand if you know. Mahsa Amini was an ordinary Iranian girl who was arrested by the Iranian regime and was killed while she was in custody for not having an appropriate hijab. Iran is one of the very few countries that they have a mandatory hijab for women. And the hijab for women is a reason to not attracting men. Iranian regime spends thousands of dollars, millions of dollars, in order to empower those organizations and the government bodies to fight with having improper hijab. They don't spend this money in order to educating men, to raising awareness for equality, but they think that we have to get rid of the question. We don't need to find the answer. But when Mahsa Amini was killed, there was a new movement happened in Iran. And at that time, I and a lot of my fellow activists knew that the change will happening, and it might be in our lifetime. But we had a responsibility. All of these people that you can see their pictures, they were killed within a few weeks. They were arrested by the regime. They were killed, and no one take the responsibility. Some of them, on their death certificate, was like beaten by a dog, throwing out from a building, an accident. Whose responsibility was to stand up? Not the government. Because most of governments, at best, they're going to say we closely monitor the situation. We don't need them to closely monitor. We know what's happening. We need them to take an action. And I believe that we, as the people, we have the absolute power. We, as the people, have the absolute power. Because this is us who put those politicians in the office by our vote. And we have to demand what we want them to do. Iranians gather around three simple words: woman, life, freedom. That was, everyone agreed on, that the women's rights to live, and rights to have a freedom is the basic human rights. And it's not only for Iranians, it's for everyone. It doesn't matter which nationality you have. It doesn't matter which religion you practice or which part of the world you're living. Women's rights, life, and freedom is very important for everyone. There is more than 100 years of women's rights activism in Iran. A lot of them were arrested. A lot of them were tortured and silenced. But right now, we are shouting that this is a very important thing, and we want to get rid of Iranian regime and have a proper democratic regime in Iran. Women's rights freedom is everything else. It's LGBT rights freedom. It's ethnical minority rights, life freedom. It's the religious and life freedom. It covers everything because, yes, a lot of people said that they have only for women, but no, those women that we talk about them, they are our mothers, sisters, wives, siblings. It's not something that we're not familiar with. I want you to shout it out. And then I'm going to talk about what we have to do. I would like to ask everyone to hold the person beside your hand and bring it up. If there is no one beside you, just you can raise your hand. And I want you to repeat 3 times, women, life, freedom, as loud as you can, that everyone can hear it. Woman, life, freedom. Woman, life, freedom. Woman, life, freedom. It's very important that we repeat this term every day for us. We have something that other people don't. In the previous generations, they didn't have. We have social media. I would like to ask you to use your social media. Instagram is not only for having a really nice dress or going to club. During the Women's Life Freedom movement and revolution, we proved that these social media can keep politicians and governments accountable. Mention your member of parliament on the social media. Ask them what they did, what they want to do. If something happened in Britain, what they want to do, the same thing that they did to Iran? The same thing that they say, yeah, closely monitor? We need action. Maybe you think that you are alone, and as a one person, you can't bring a change. I proved to myself that we can. Imagine that you are a drop of water, a single drop of water. You might vaporize. But if all of us, as a single drop of water, join each other, we can be a tsunami. We can bring the change. We can bring the social justice. We can bring it from the textbooks to the society. Not only speeches, not only a podium and microphone and talk about these issues, a real, tangible action. We have done it, and we have to continue doing it, but we need to do it together. Everyone together. And there is no timeline. It's from now on. And unfortunately, it's already late, but we have to catch up. Thank you so much.